Still.
But I tell you, I sleep so good at night. Knowing that I help elevate others. I am very confident in my talent and capabilities.
Absolutely.
I know there's seats at the table
Plenty.
available for other people. And
Yeah.
and if I let other talent in, then the table just gets longer.
Welcome to Her Agency, the podcast. I'm your host, Brandi Rand. This is a space curated for Black women in advertising who are bold enough to pick up the pen, write the brief, take up space, and own their agency. Welcome to another episode of Her Agency, the podcast. I'm your host, Brandi Rand, and today we have an outstanding conversation. When you're a mom working in corporate, you deliver 2 times over. You have an aperture that allows you to get shit done on a level unlike any other. And today's conversation with my good girlfriend, Malia Jennings, will tell you how to navigate those pivots and show up as a boss mom and a boss girl in corporate. Welcome, Malia.
Thank you. Thank you. The pleasure's all mine.
It's so good to see you.
It is so wonderful seeing you. It's been a
feel
while.
It's been a minute.
2 kids later.
2 kids.
A 3-year-old and a 7-month-old.
Well, if we're totaling it all up,
yeah,
it's 3 kids later. Because I had Gray and you had your 2 since the last time we've seen each other or worked together.
And look at us working.
Look at us.
Look at us.
Thriving,
living.
We are amazing.
Yes.
So I like to kick off each episode with a question.
Okay.
What's the one time in your career that you really leaned in and owned your agency?
Oh, that's powerful. You know, I've never been asked that before.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes,
Thank
you're
you for
welcome.
giving me space to actually have to marinate on that and to share my experience. So I would say when I became an account director at Encompass International, and today now the director of multicultural marketing.
Tell him.
At Encompass International. I want to give a shout out to Brianna Corniger. He's my co-director of multicultural marketing at Encompass. What I would say was when I began my tenure there, during my interview process, they asked me what my challenges were at my last agency. And I said, I never really had an opportunity to have a creative seat at the table. Right. I was the person after, the activation plan was locked and loaded, sealed. I was the one who produced against somebody else's vision, which, there were some pretty fun programs I was a part of, but when you are a part of developing what that consumer experience will be, when you're at the cornerstone of creative development and really laying out the blueprint of what that activation will be, it vests you more in the success. Like if I pitch, this or that idea and it goes to left, I am not going to let it fail. Yeah. So I will say a really transformative moment in my career was when I began at Encompass International, when they gave me that seat at the table. And one of my most beautiful, still to this day, partners and clients today being Braille Communications, and through that umbrella, Toyota, being able to really pitch ideas and see them come to life, and be able to take my strategic approach, which has always been really putting the people first, sending them their needs first, putting community first, and then organically and authentically integrating brand details or needs or whatever you need to do from a self, but really interweaving that strategically to create an authentic brand affinity. And the results have been extraordinary. Hence, my rise in the echelons of Encompass, and Burrell still being a client to this day, almost 10 years later.
10 years? Wow.
10 years.
Yeah. So for everyone who doesn't know, me and Malia worked together when I was at Burrell Communications, leading the Toyota social account.
Yep.
We did so many fun activations.
So many incredible activations. And I would just, in the partnership, what was so beautiful, because there was no ego there. No. It was very rooted in what is going to service our target audience first. And I really applaud Burrell and have this similar strategic approach. And then for me, added value, I'm just, in addition to being a lover of people, within that I'm a lover of stories. I'm a community rooted, but also a creative person. And I'll never forget, it was the last minute before a CIAA Career Expo one year. And Burrell calls like, we have, this opportunity to activate there. What should we do? What can we do? We just know we want to do something a little against the grain. We want to be a stale, just desktop, just there with the table, you know, accepting resumes for Toyota. What can we do that's different? And again, with my approach being community rooted, people rooted, and in that, always looking for opportunities to provide pipeline for our people. I said, you know, there's definitely a gap between the skill sets that people learn in a classroom and then the skills they need to get a job. And quite often, marginalized communities, our communities, we're missing that gap because quite often we still yield high in being the first generation to go to college within our demographic. And also there ends up being, you know, if you weren't so fortunate to have it in your village. Like my parents both had corporate jobs. My mother has gone on to be the president of 3 HBCUs. My dad is a retired chemist to teach you those soft skills, how to navigate corporate America. How are you going to get there? So I pitched to them. I was like, let's have an activation that really bridges that gap between the skill sets that you learn in the classroom, what you need to get the job, those soft skills. So we did resume development workshops, but with our inaugural year, we actually had someone who worked on Obama's campaign who was getting resumes and really leaning in, like, I mean, marking up resumes, the red marking on that red,
showing them the way,
or like a sword, like, but she was so committed, invested,
and passionate
about it to set them up for success. But also having, it was a play on TLC's What Not to Wear, but it was like what to wear to a job interview. Because if you don't have that mentorship, and that's, we also got to talk about mentorship because that's super, super important. You know, we had brothers who were coming up, they didn't know how to tie a tie. They didn't know how their pants should break on their leg. You know, Cardi B's wearing blue lipstick in a music video, but you know, to my sisters, maybe it's not mindful. Maybe that's not what you want to do. No. You know, for your job interview. Also providing headshots because, you know, those are expensive and that's become,
and they're necessary.
It's
like
necessary.
You can't have the car selfie on LinkedIn.
You cannot. You can absolutely not. So that program was called the Toyota Drive to Employment. And that was the first property that I pitched to Burrell that went to life and went to go on, I want to say we activated it for 4 or 5 years, but that was just like a cornerstone, the crux of me being able to have that seat at the table to pitch creatively, but inherently in that opportunity to be able to foster change in our community.
That's so wonderful. So you're not in a traditional like holding company ad agency. Tell the people, just give them a little bit more about the role that you play, the type of work that you do. Okay. Like rolling out activations and putting on for the people, making brands be in the heart of the community.
Hi, allow me to reintroduce myself. I'm Malia Jennings, and I'm the Director of Multicultural Marketing at Encompass International. And within my role, I'm really the champion of the client's vision. I ensure that I'm meeting all of their strategic goals and objectives once we sell in a program and making sure that we hit our mark. And I'm kind of internal mission control to make sure all of our various departments from creative, accounts, production, they're all working in harmony. I like to call it working it as a ballet. Yeah, because I grew up in a dance studio. So I choreograph the team to make sure everything's brought to life, appropriately meeting their vision. But more than that, the services that myself and my co-director of multicultural marketing, Brianna Cornegie, is we are on the ground listening. Like, you know, as you as a social maven, you know about social listening. We're like people listening. We're like listeners of the culture. What's trending? What's happening? What's authentic? What's true? What would be offensive? You know, we're kind of like, you know, from a quality assurance purpose, all the things. I remember we were pitching something for Circle of Sisters one year for you all, and there's someone who was not us. One of us in the room was like, "Oh, I don't know what people would do that. And I'm like, I'm going to testify that as a Black woman, and being a part of the Circle of Sisters, that we will do that. Yes. And
of course you don't know.
And
that's why we're here.
And that's But I'm like, but I don't know, but I know. Like I don't have analytics behind it, but I bring that
lived experience.
That lived experience.
Absolutely.
You know, the case study of my life.
Of your life.
To guarantee that this is gonna hit hard. And we had groundbreaking numbers that year. Like oh my gosh, it's proprietary, but we did well.
Nice.
The event was incredibly successful.
Tell me how you have thrived in the space of being a boss lady and a mom of 2.
Man, when I tell you, it's obviously more work being a marketeer and a mom, but it is so rewarding being a marketeer and a mom. It puts so much more purpose in my work. I think to myself when I'm in my own little marination lab trying to come up with ideas. I'm thinking, am I servicing the client's needs? Within that, I've spoken a lot about community because that's my approach and the window into how I develop engagement strategies. And now I think about what my kids think about this,
that's
10,
good.
20 years
it's excellent
down the line. And, in the era of social media, it's going to be out there, and what are they going to think about mommy's work. And you think about long-term impressions in an era and age where there is no delete button.
No, it's out there.
It's there. And so kind of having them as a quality assurance manager of making sure that I'm producing work that I'm proud of as a mother. I mean, I think clients benefit as well because I want to make sure I'm doing really strong and credible work to make them proud as well. So it's mutually beneficial.
Yes, the mommies perform.
Look,
because we can do all the things.
Yeah, I had a colleague at Encompass tell me, I've learned if you want to get something done, ask a mommy.
Absolutely,
ask a mommy because
we will find a way. We
will find a way, and we'll do it in record-breaking time because there's only finite windows that we have to get it done.
The most efficient.
Like I leave to the house to pick up my kids from daycare somewhere between 5:15ish each day, and I'm very, very persistent, very adamant, very determined to get all of my work deliverables done before I leave because they're in daycare all day. So from 5:30 to when they go to bed at 9, that's all I got during weekdays. And so I'm very intentional. I close my laptop. It's I live in their world of imagination and play and engagement and love and cuddles and all the things. And so I'm very. There's no I can get to that later or I'll work later tonight. Once because then after 9 o'clock, I mean, honestly, mama maybe has the most an hour. I'm generally tucked in around 10 o'clock.
Right.
So again, sometimes there's bias against moms in workplaces.
There is.
Not sometimes, we know there's.
Yes.
There's bias against moms in workplaces. Facts. We know this. So listen, all you biased mommy people watching this right now, mamas get it done. Okay. We do get it done. And again, clients benefit especially you be my client, formerly of Royal Communications and based in Chicago, based in Dallas. I'm here in Los Angeles. It benefits you. The earlier you get the work in, the better.
The earlier I get to my kids.
Yes. So we all win. Right. So hire people with kids. We get it done.
We absolutely get it done. My personal story, I started my family later in my career life. I was of the mindset at the time that I just really needed to lock in, buckle down, make sure I have a solid foundation, that I wasn't questioning where I was, and that I knew that if I did start a family, I could come back and everything would be good. Yeah. We feel like, because as Black women, when we pull up, we feel like we got to do the most, and oftentimes we do. Yeah. Sometimes to get the least, but we just know that there's a certain level of expectation that comes with us when we're on the roster as far as talent. My experience also led me to understand that it's not necessarily necessary to wait, because at the end of the day, if it's not a good fit and if someone decides that you're not a good fit at the company, you're not going to be there anyway. So what I learned is do things in your own time. Yeah. When we start a family, what has been your experience on the decisions that you made as far as when you're going to start family planning, when it was the right time in your career to start that? I mean, honestly, for me, a lot of it was financially rooted, and I think by the time you get to a financial place where you have the opportunity to raise your family the way you want to. And it was hard. And even I had to reset my mindset because I'm a native of Charlotte, North Carolina, and I live in Los Angeles. North Kakalaki. Oh my gosh. Looking at Los Angeles real estate prices with these North Kakalaki eyes is something else. So that's a major paradigm.
So it was a huge paradigm. Like I have shifted. My husband's a Los Angeles native. Oh, so he had to kind of reel you in. Reel me down in reality that, and then also economies are different. My parents worked in an economy where, my dad worked for the same company 30 plus years. Yes, my mom worked for same 30 plus years. So, and it's different now. So I would say, economics played a role. And so by the time you rise and elevate in your company to, hit that director level or department head level or VP level, I'm coming for you next, VP level title. You're in your late 30s.
You are.
And then you're like, okay, and you're gonna marry that with egg freezer, and do we go down dinner? But now you're like, I just got my dang seat at the table. I just got my seat to the table. I'm pitching ideas, and now I'm supposed to take time off to have kids. So you're confounded because you're at the table, and not only because I've been at the seat at the table for now about a decade, but now I'm in a position to like be at the head of the table. Yeah. But I had to listen to my body, and I had to listen to my vision for how I saw my family, and I had to press pause to start my family. And long game, looking back, everything we just talked about has been mutually beneficial for me as a mom, for me as a marketer, and the company and the clients. Right. Because I came back to work with a stronger sense of purpose and intentionality of what I wanted to produce, again, to make my kids proud of me. And I'm very, very, very fortunate. I'm very, very privileged that through my work at Encompass and Harmony with Burrell, also Camille is another agency that I represent.
Shout out to Camille.
Shout out to Camille Advertising. Shout out to Intertrend, who's the agent.
Oh, and Intertrend, our friends at Intertrend.
I work for Toyota and Toyota. You say thank you for the opportunity, because I'm very, very fortunate in servicing that brand to have a decade's portfolio of work.
Strong partnership.
Where I get to service communities, and which was just really my key passion point. And then under that umbrella, I've been able to thrive as a marketeer.
That's so beautiful. I love what you said about the economic perspective of having kids, because despite me having a kid and it wasn't on my own time, right? And then we look at what I can afford them now, right? So yes, I was later in life as a mommy based on my career. But then my husband and I had many conversations. We can send them to Montessori school. Like, that's a grip of money at an infant age through pre-K. But the learning and the development, I wouldn't have had that had I started my family at a more junior level. Yeah. Not necessarily making the level of income that I was making. So there are pros and cons to the timing of starting a family. But oftentimes when I mentor my young girlies out there, they're like, when is the right time? How do I know when it's right? And it's just, you have to go with your gut. You have to go with your gut. The job may or may not be there regardless of how you feel anyway.
Yeah, and especially in this market.
You got to do you.
You got to do you. I also feel like my parents' journeys and their family planning definitely inspired, my vision of how I saw my family. I remember because my mother had me what was considered later in their generation. 31. Ooh.
Yes.
What do they call it?
Advanced maternal?
Yeah, advanced maternal. Yeah, because I was 37 with my first. Yeah. And 39 with my second. Yeah. But I remember her saying to me, by the time you came into my life, I had lived fully, abundantly, traveled, done all the things. So by the time I had you, if a Friday night was, hosting a slumber party with your friends and Saturday morning taking you to dance class, I'm with it. I was cool in that.
No big deal. Yeah.
And that's kind of my life now, like, through these really wondrous programs. I mean, I've traveled across the country, in big marketplaces such as, your New York Cities, your Chicago's, your Atlanta's, I've produced activation in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho.
A small town. Like, where is that?
I've seen it all. I've lived it all. And then again, just going back to this turn of how it's cyclical and how it's mutually beneficial, because these opportunities to travel and meet new people, how it inspires further thought and inspiration to fuel into different brand campaigns, but also, again, makes me a better mom.
Absolutely.
Because I can fuel that experience into the upbringing of my kids. And my daughter recently, actually my daughter and my son recently traveled with me to Toyota's One Music Festival.
Oh, nice.
And we had the best time. They were amazing on the flight. So don't be scared if you sit next to me on an airplane. My kids are dope on a plane. I was just like, I want to continue doing that. I want them to see mommy work. And another thing that my parents did with me, they tied my work to their work to my my economic endeavors and dreams. So example being, I remember my mom had a work trip in Minnesota, and she was like, "Oh, you like this plane?
Yeah.
Oh, you got to stay in school, you got to get good grades. Oh, you like this hotel pool? You like this? Well, then you got to go to college, and so it's just they always tie that. So those are things that again
creating that mindset. For
my marketing life has supported and elevated my mommy life, and my mommy life has supported and elevated my marketing life.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Was there ever a time when you questioned, could you have both? Could you be a dope mommy and be a rock star career woman?
I sit before you with edges unlaid because I had to.
We'll snatch him back with the answer.
My 3-year-old and 7-month-old together before, and then mommies come last. We always put ourselves last, you know. And so on the car, and I'm like, at stoplights trying to get it together. Mommy's looking crazy, that was my journey here, and here we are. But it's tough. It's a really tough balance. It's a really tough ballet, as I described in my business life. And honest, there have been times where I've taken tumbles, just keeping it real and 100 with you. And most recently, I also sit before you as when I'm just freshly back from maternity leave.
Yes. Congratulations on the new addition.
Thank you. He's the best boy, best surprise, but biggest blessing in our lives. God knew what we needed.
He did.
Thank you, Onyx.
He did.
And I had planned to take 4-month maternity leave, like 3 months, as you guys all know, is typically kind of like the standard, but I learned from my daughter, I needed month 4. I feel like month 1 through 3 is getting your life together, for getting my mommy life together. And I needed that additional month to kind of transition and getting back to the marketplace and servicing myself as an individual.
Right.
With my son, I remember it just didn't feel right at 4 months. And having conversations with my husband. Thank you, husband. Thank you, Derek Jennings.
We love the husband.
Who was super supportive of me. I was just like, I need more. I need more time. I was like, this is probably my last pregnancy. I need, it was the maternity leave for my son, but also needing time and space to also service my toddler who needed to be seen, needed to be cuddled.
Absolutely.
Even more arguably, because her world was obviously rocked and changed.
Right.
With his arrival. And so I just listened to my body, and I remember I was like, maybe I'll check in at work and just see what's on the slate. But I was like, no, if I check in what's on the slate, I might be tempted. Or I was like, no, I just need to listen to my heart, listen to my spirit. And I took a 6-month leave.
Good,
and I'm very thankful for my company. Thank you, Encompass International, which is a female-owned company, for allowing that opportunity and space for me to protect my self-care and in that protect my family. And I think, again, they've benefited because I came back ready to go and ready to work versus just
instead of halfway.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's dig into a little bit more about the power to make that decision. But first, I guess even a click further is the awareness.
Yeah.
To check in and understand. Because so often we're like, checking the chat, trying to see what's going on, or we know we've got this major annual activation coming up that is our sweet spot in our zone of genius. But really putting that aside and being present in the moment to evaluate top to bottom how we're feeling and if the time is right to go back. What did that process look like for you? Are you a Black girl in advertising? If so, we've created the most amazing space just for you. If you are ready to thrive and not just survive in this male-dominated space, if you want to lock arms, build community and culture with others that look like you, join her agency, The Collective, a place where we're having real conversations, doing the work, building our brands, taking up space, and owning our agency. See you there.
That's a complicated question. I'm so glad you asked that, because as you were asking, I was thinking to myself, I really listened to my heart, but was really just looking at my children and listening to myself in relation to my children. But what I need to work on is listening to my body as it relates just to me as an individual. Because a lot of me pressing pause, I do a great job of pressing pause for the kids, pressing pause for husband, pressing pause for me. That's still ongoing. It's an ongoing. I'm still learning. Yeah. I'm working on it. I'm working on myself. So for the break from maternity leave, it was looking at my newborn baby and really more so looking at my toddler, because you have to have the bandwidth to be present, and perform for them both. Because, I love to protect my kids, ciphers being kids, you know. And I remember because I worked at a daycare center when I was in college in New York City. And I remember noticing, observing that happy kids came from happy parents. And I remember seeing a woman, it was a sister. I remember she pulled up to the daycare center and I saw her through the glass and I saw her put on her mask because sometimes we have to. And like who knew what type of day she had, but I saw her just
pull it together.
And then walked in the door with the biggest smile. And her kids were some of those happy kids, the daycare center, but the parents who came in, why you have to, where are your stuff? Like they're, you know, kids feel that. And so I know the care of me serves me being a better caregiver for them. So that also factored into that decision. And then also just feeling like I needed to catch up on time for rest. You know, you spoke earlier about us, you know, as a people just being Black, you know, you're already raised, you know, you got to be twice as good to get your just due. And then you layer being a woman on top of that. Like, I don't know how to do anything but be my best. Like, I don't know how to do
at all times.
Go hard, I don't know how to do anything less than the apotheosis of its potential. Right. And so it was also just needing to catch up on rest. Like, you know, I had catch up on rest for a decade.
Yeah, that's so revolutionary. Rest is very revolutionary. It's like the exact resistance because we're in such a go society. Everybody's trying to get it. Everybody's trying to make it. There's the underlying pressures of the economy and potential recessions. Everybody is in full blown fast mode. So being able to just have the awareness to pause, to take a step back, regardless of what's going on around you. Yeah. Because, you know, in our industry, you know, you sometimes need to work night to day to get the thing done. Yep. And if you don't, you're kind of looked at as somebody who's not giving their all because the person right next to you, maybe the younger person or even the older person, the person with no kids, the person with more leniency in their day when they get home is going hard in the paint till 10 o'clock. When you as a mom have leveraged your agency, created the boundary to log off at 5 because I got to pick the kids up. Now I might log back in at 8. Or it might have to wait until the next day, but just I just want to express the fact that we should take the time to create those boundaries and really own our agency. How have you done that since getting back to work, now having 2? What does that look like for you? Are you blocking time on the calendar?
I just have to. So what I do is in my calendar every day, if I can do it, because you know I take care of my clients. Right. From 3 to 5, I book myself out, and the meeting invite to myself is called Malia Get Shit Done. Nice. And my Get Shit Done window protects my ability to get shit done. Everything I said I was going to do in the meetings in the morning,
all the stuff
everything's I'm gonna Malia's gonna get this done. I'm gonna get this day. I'm gonna get this to you by tomorrow morning. It protects my space in getting shit done before I switch gears, you know, whip up some dinner real quick and then go pick up the kids. So it's like I got to talk the talk, but I also got to walk the walk within business hours. But again, efficiencies, because by doing that, I do get things done by end of day. Yeah. And with them being the North Star and my incentive to get it done, because I want to protect that time from 5:30 to 9 to getting it done. I will say I'm very fortunate in that my work environment, a lot of other people have families as well, so they get it as well. Because I haven't really had to make a statement too definitive about like from 5:30 to 9, don't touch it. I just don't respond, or I'll get to it. You know,
I love that.
But I think also the benefit, because again, how the mommy and the marketeering is mutually beneficial. I'm up earlier, you know.
That's a good
kids
point.
Get up somewhere between 6:30 and 7. And when I'm nursing my son in the morning, if it's a simple email like got it confirmed, approved, go do that, I go ahead. I'm checking in. I mean, I kind of low key log in and I start the day at 7. So even if I have to use within that 3 to 5 get shit done windows, like so I'm like, okay, like let me, you know, type up this proposal, but then let me go ahead and chop up these onions for dinner, you know. But I've logged on at 7 a.m. and a lot of my clients from the East Coast and Central Time. So again, everyone's winning.
That's beautiful. That's a major key though. Just, you know, because there are ways to modify the schedule and get shit done. It doesn't always have to be just a no. It's a no, not right now, or it's a yes and just taking the power to just be forthright in managing that. I'm sure that your leadership appreciates that. I know that your clients appreciate that. Something that you touched on earlier that I think is really a aha moment. It depends on the leadership in which you work and the approach to being a parent and maternity and paternity leaves.
Yep.
You said just briefly that you were at a woman-owned agency. And I think I know that makes a big difference with the approach and the nurturing environment to say it's okay. What change are you seeing in other companies as far as their approach to being, a good place to work for parents?
I think it's hard when it's just one person. Mm-hmm. I know there was a woman before me. I'm not sure if she want to be named by name, so I'll keep her anonymous. But she kind of paved the way for the mommy culture at our company because we, it's kind of like we came up in a class. Like we all kind of started in our mid-20s. When we started, we weren't married. There were no kids. And so I remember when she was like, oh, I got to log out because I got to go pick up my kid from school. And, we honored and respected that, but I didn't really get it. I didn't understand. I mean, she's like, I log off at 5. I'll come back on after my daughter goes to bed at 8:30. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, that's, it worked for me because I just, I was, I would take a longer lunch. I would, get something done, then kiki with you at the coffee, the coffee tables, So I wasn't as efficient, because I knew I could work late. I could go with you to happy hour and work on my laptop and still get it done. Mm-hmm. So she paved the way for how I think the agency thought about how we need to integrate supporting moms in our workplace. Like I remember someone made it feel like, why is there a chair randomly in the bathroom? And she was like, oh, that chair is in the bathroom because that's where I would pump.
Right.
And so now I'm very fortunate and I work from home. From time to time I go into our office, but, I don't go in too often because the logistics of pumping, it's a thing.
Yeah, it's got to get done.
It's got to get done.
And shout out to the Black breastfeeding moms with the liquid gold.
Liquid gold. I mean, I sit before you wearing print, so I will not leaketh on a dress and show it.
I love it. I remember the grind when I had the babies. I was shipping milk.
Oh, honey,
I was pumping in the bathroom at an activation. I pumped at what's our activation we do in New York? Broccoli City.
DC. Broccoli City Festival in DC.
I was in there like pumping, cause first of all, I needed relief. There's that. But then I was like shipping milk back to my husband because I was just so hell bent on making sure we didn't break them off the bottle or off of breast milk.
Breast milk, literally. I flew with 16 bags of frozen milk in a lunch pack and like 8 refreezable ice packs.
Yeah, the ice packs.
To make it work because I was committed to making sure my son, maintained his breast milk. Yeah.
You're so multifaceted though. Let's get into all of your endeavors. You're a boss at work. You're an amazing mommy, but you're also very much a creative.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about what you've got going on in your 5 to 9.
Okay, my 5 to 9. My kids are. I mentioned that I love to play in this live in this imaginary world with my kids. My kids are also my inspiration when it comes to my creative endeavors as a children's writer. They are my development executives.
That's so cute. That's so
low key. I'm like, would Inari resonate with this? Or would she identify with this? But to be honest. Also, I've been on this journey as a children's writer long before I knew I was going to be a mom, but I knew I was going to be a mom. So it was very an unconscious path. When I would write creatively, I would just always write for kids. Or I would come up with an idea or I would hear something that was fascinating. A lot of it historically rooted. I'm a huge lover of history and culture, which again, that's my kind of strategic approach in
the work,
my stank, if you will, and then the marketing space. And so when I hear really fascinating historical stories or culturally relevant stories, I'm like, how do I make this available to children? And so years ago, I wrote a short story called Rapunzel Jackson. And it was part of my thesis for my master's at Mount St. Mary's. I have a master's in humanities with emphasis in creative, which kind of umbrella, and within the humanities, there was history, cultural studies, English, and screenwriting was kind of like the intersection of all the curriculum I was studying. And it was a coming of age story about, what happens when little Black girls lose their braids. And I used it to symbolize the bonds with their mothers. And went on to make the short story, a short film.
Nice.
Because I was about to turn 30 and I was like, I have to get this done before I turn 30. You can see the link on my my Instagram channel, but that would just spawn like a career path and pivot, just like really just to focus on children's writing. I understand the power of marketing for adults. It's something really powerful when used right. It's also something very powerful when used wrong.
Absolutely.
You know,
it can go both ways.
It can go both ways. You know, the propaganda,
Yes.
end of marketing is a very dangerous space. And so, but I also understand that power of marketing or storytelling to children, you know, and I think it's important to catch them early, to instill lessons that we want them to carry with them as adults. You know, the message of inclusivity, you got to start young. We teach hate. You know, and so I think we got to combat with teaching love just as much, just as importantly.
Even more so, yeah.
And so with Rapunzel Jackson, a lot of the messaging is tied to your natural self, being your best self, being your most beautiful self. And, you know, before Inari was in my belly, my body, you know, that's a love letter to her.
That's so beautiful.
I have a portfolio. They're proprietary for now because I'm in development of something that I want, you know, to say, you know, tune in because this is going to be on your TV screen soon. But it's very, very important to make sure that we are nurturing the growth of our children. And I would go on from, you know, producing Rapunzel Jackson to I got accepted into the Warner Media Access Writers Program, which is formerly the HBO Writing Fellowship. 2,000 people applied my year. Only 20 of us got in. Wow. Of course, I got in.
Of course.
While I was 6 months pregnant. But again, the intentionality, the purpose, like, you know, with this baby in my belly, I'm going to get it done. I'm going to get it done. And I remember like being up at 3, 4 in the morning and writing the project that is in development right now. So stay tuned. If I hadn't had her in my belly, I probably would have wanted to give up. Or, you know, I'm just going to go to sleep. I can do it tomorrow. But I'm like, because she's here, because I want her to be proud of me, because there's only this finite window that she's going to be asleep. I had to get it done. Right. And so I'm just so thankful for her when that project is live and on your TV screens. I'm just going to own that it will be.
Yes, it will.
That's the love letter to my children. Mommy did that for you, Henry, and Mommy did that for you, Onyx.
That's so beautiful. I love how you hit on the fact that our kids feel our passion.
They really do.
Creativity. Yeah, there's I've been dabbling in AI and trying to create a book with the likeness of my son. It's been very difficult because the coding in Midjourney is not curating a braid look for my son. So we'll get there. But however, yes, I do know that there was a intense uptake in my creativity and just the vividness of the world around me through the eyes of my children. It's something that I leveraged heavily in my career, and just campaigns were more beautiful. The aperture of perspective that I brought to the table based on my lived experience now as a mom was so necessary. I remember when I had my first son, I was at an agency, and for whatever reason, a few months prior to me announcing I was pregnant, I was put on all the mommy brands. I was put on this thing called Boudreaux's butt paste. I was put on some diaper products, and it was kind of like a foretelling of how I would move in this space. But I was really in my bag once I did become pregnant. I came back and was tapping in at the time to mommy bloggers and really being able to pull out what resonates in them and how to tell stories on behalf of brands. So it doesn't have to be a hindrance, is I guess the takeaway. And you shouldn't approach it and feel like, becoming a mother, having a child is going to hold me back. It's going to dampen my ability to be creative. It actually does the opposite.
Yeah, I would argue I've created my best work post being a mom.
That's so beautiful.
It really have.
Tell me what fuels your creativity outside of being a mom. What else has you excited just about the way the industry is going?
You know what? Something that I'm working on that I'm really, really, really excited about is some of my kind of like independent marketing campaigns and endeavors. And I'm working on something that's really special, really near and dear to my heart because I've been involved at the Cornerstone working with youth in our community to combat drug misuse. And what is really, really compelling about this program is called Get Lifted. Lifted standing for Living in Faith to Elevate Dreams.
Nice.
And we're a youth-led community lift program to empower dream chasing instead of drug use. And what I really love about this program and I'm using as a case study to represent how not only marketeers, but brands are doing better about like listening to people, and putting and setting them first, is this brand specifically is listening to our youth.
Yes.
So the idea being that, adults aren't getting how to combat drugs correctly.
Yeah.
I grew up in the era of just don't do drugs.
Just don't
dare,
do it.
Dare don't do
dare
drugs. Just
to do
don't,
drugs.
Don't do drugs. And when I looked back in the case study of my life, I realized, why I didn't do drugs. I was too busy dream chasing. I wanted to be a dancer and actress on Broadway. And I was like, I can't be high and hit these triple pirouettes
Absolutely
at dance
not.
class. I was just too busy. I can't hit my monologue at theater class if I'm high. And so that was my motivating purpose. So I used that case study and personal testimony in my life, pitched it to the state of California, the division of the Public Health Institute. It's called the Center for Collaborative Planning, CCP. So just thank you for being revolutionaries in the game and trusting me and my vision to galvanize this cohort of about 25 just really beautiful youth. They hate me because they're teenagers, but because they're kids. They're my kids too. I feel like they're my honorary babies. And we're like, okay, we got to figure out this do for them, and we're supposed to going to be this dream chase for them for phase 1 of this program. And they were like, we're thinking about maybe a podcast or maybe a short film. I said, well, I'm biased, but my husband is a brilliant filmmaker and podcast producer, and you need to bring him on board. And so they interviewed him, brought him on board, produced a beautiful short film, and that these kids, again, position them just as I do my kids in my own life. They were our Netflix executive. They led everything from storyline development. They had they were stakeholders in how the script was developed. Like they gave my husband notes, and he integrated in them. We shot in August. We actually just recently had the premiere in Sacramento this past month, and just, we dual path the development of the film to also teaching real skills. So taking it back to the Toyota drive to employment.
Yep, full circle.
Kids learn how to create pitch decks. They learn, strengthen their use of Zoom and PowerPoint through the process of meeting with us.
Yeah, hands-on.
And very hands-on. And then mentorship, because I said I want to go back to mentorship, because again, these kids a lot of them come from challenging situations, or they may not have the mentorship within their village and house of the opportunities available to them. If someone just tap their potential.
That's all it
Someone
takes.
just give them that nudge. And some of these kids are like, maybe I could be a filmmaker.
Absolutely.
Or maybe, Miss Malia, I want to do what you do. Maybe I want to be a marketeer. And if they hadn't had this opportunity. So I'm just so grateful, and just so humble for the opportunities God has laid before me, and be able to use just this passion point of mine in servicing people and servicing community, and more specifically kids, to do some really, really beautiful work, some revolutionary work to uplift our communities.
And it's all powered and elevated by your perspective of being a dope mom.
Yeah, because I pour into these kids like they're my own. Yeah, like I really do. That's and I think we would all benefit if we approached kids, employees. I mean, you see that young intern walking down the hall at your company. Reach out, pour into them, because you never know who they're gonna be. And if you have doubts of who they're gonna be, then that's shame on you for not grabbing them by the hand and lifting them up, carrying them with you. Because that's, in Passionate, we talked about, the leaning back to lift and push forward. And I think we just gotta get back. We got to do it. And I do understand it's challenging and playing devil's advocate, because this market is so competitive. It's tough. It's so
It's
dog eat
dog still.
But I tell you, I sleep so good at night knowing that I help elevate others. I am very confident in my talent and capabilities. Absolutely. I know there's seats at the table available for other people. And and if I let other talent in, then the table just gets longer. Yes. And more people can sit, more people can eat, more people can grow. That's so just always give people space. Always give people space to shine.
Excellent takeaway. Just real quick, let's wrap up and give them the Cliff Notes version.
Okay.
What are the top 3 takeaways from this amazing conversation of owning your agency and leaning into the power of your motherhood?
The top 3 things.
Yes.
That I've taken away from this.
What should they know? What should the people know?
The people should know that the things that you do to take care of yourself will benefit the people who deal with you in business.
Nice.
If I take care of myself, I can take care of you.
The analogy of in the plane, putting your mask on first so that you can help others.
No, the analogy, like if I take that rest, if I take, I mean, there was one time, because when I first got back from maternity leave, like I needed an afternoon nap.
Yeah.
And I used to feel bad about that.
Naps are
I used to feel really bad about that nap. But I'm like, ooh, I took that hour nap, and man, what I pounded out in the proposal afterwards.
Yes.
I should have billed for that nap, okay?
Nice. What's number two?
So the second thing I would say that I want people to walk away with is, if you, as a marketeer, really focus on your target audience's needs. If you service them, then your audience will service you with brand loyalty. If they feel seen, if they feel taken care of, they will take care of you. It's been a strategic approach of mine always, but that's just come from a personal investment, like village. It takes a whole village to raise a child mentality that I was raised with. And it's been a super fruitful approach that I just want to share with everyone, and then companies and communities benefit at large.
What's that third gem you want to drop for the people?
The third gem that I want to drop for the people is that, the kids are the reason. They're not an excuse. And the next time you are looking at a mom for a job or interviewing for a mom for a job and questioning her capabilities, questioning, I don't know if I want to hire her because she's not going to be able to work late, or she's not going to be able to work on weekends, thinking about the rewards of working with someone who is going to work so hard and with such talent and tenacity within business hours. So you can get off on time as well, with the get her done attitude. I just want to look at her again and give her agency, give her space to shine and showcase what she can do for you, instead of shunning her for being a mother.
Nice. Mic drop moment. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you.
It's so good to see you.
So
and this
good
is
to
going to
see
resonate with so
you.
many in the marketplace who serve as marketeers and moms. Thank you.
Let's get it. Thank you.